that though, Tom, and it doesn't mean that you can't change it. Your millage is set.
It doesn't help them if
How's it gonna help them? They're
I think
already
that's the
got 2
confusion,
mills.
like
Yeah,
it keeps being brought up, could we promise it, could we promise it? We would love to promise it, I would love to sit up here and say you can have it for the next 100,000 years, but it doesn't really mean anything.
It could be changed by any board in the future, but it would show you that we're behind you on that right now.
And from our point of view, all it means is we put a loan application to buy a $500,000 fire truck. Right now, our millage is set at this, and that's all it means from history. We can't predict the future. The bank never asked you to predict the future.
Nobody can.
But we can say, yes, they are in writing. We get 2 mills, and this is what our baseline
We
budget
talked about
is.
this, you'd be better off coming to us and asking us to co-sign or underwrite the loan.
And that can, we can discuss it. That is on my list. What I'm saying is, this is why we discuss it. No one said, I don't care if you do it or not. I mean, it'd be nice.
We would love to,
But you already gave support that you would possibly co-sign the loan from the township point of
Guarantee
view.
it, not co-sign.
Right.
Yeah, guaranteed, I'm sorry.
And
Exactly.
we have done that in the past with fire
And I
trucks.
think we
But
have-
we're working all these issues out. You know, we're not trying to get you to make snap judgments. We're just saying we're trying to get a long-term view. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've talked with Ed, I've talked with people. The long-term goal is you need to prepare to migrate to some paid personnel. Bottom line, and putting some money in buildings and equipment at the township expense, because that's just the way it's going. And I'm not saying, we're fine right now, we're fine for next year, we're fine for next year or 2. But I'm saying in 5 years from now, you don't want to attack the problem. I'm saying right now, this is why we're having a discussion. No one's holding anybody to the fire. All we're saying, we better put realistic options out there and find a way. We are meeting the needs of the township now, we want to continue meeting the needs. But what are the future needs and how are we going to address those? That's where we're coming from as a
We
group.
talked about, I need to say this, we talked about the age of the equipment.
Yes.
We talked about the age of the buildings, and we talked about the age of you guys.
Yes, right here. I still got here, but it's great.
No, but those are very.
I'm getting more thanks to this place, but no, that's not.
Those are valid concerns.
Uh-oh.
Hey Andy, can I make a comment? I've been a resident here for all my life. My father was a fire chief, my cousin was a fire chief. I have to give this board a lot of credit. This is the first board that I've really heard that really wants to sit down with these 3 departments and help them. And I think this, even if you would put the millage on a referendum for the public, that's public safety. They're not going to turn you down. You're not going to hear, you might hear some older people who are retired on fixed income complain, but these younger people, first thing they want to know, what's your fire department, your schools, your EMS, everything. So I think you guys are on a fantastic direction with these fire companies. You have to be commended.
I agree with that.
Sometimes the discussions sound contentious, they're not meant to be.
I agree with you totally. They do provide such an essential service to the community here. And I think one of the things that came out of that meeting is the fact that I see how well that they're trying to work together themselves too. We need to work with that also, as the township supervisors. It's going to benefit everybody down the road.
Sure. But as a point, just as a point, we can go down, walk down Georgetown Estates, you can walk into Hill Station Manor, the new developments in our end, and everybody assumes there's paid parking up there. I mean, and I'm just throwing that out there.
They say what?
People move in, they check out the schools, they check out the parks. They assume fire and police protection is already there. And that would be, it's a shock to them when they find out it's totally voluntary.
All right, but my point was that I left there with the impression that the board gave you the impression that they were amenable to that mill increase that you asked for.
I thought so. I thought it was a very definite possibility.
I thought so.
That's the impression we got. That you
All right, so really the issue, if that's, does anybody disagree with what the 3 chiefs said? That we gave them the impression that we're amenable to that 1 mill increase. Can anybody disagree with that?
No,
Out of the general fund.
No, not yet. That's what was left open. How do we come up with it? Do we take it out of the general fund? And I know you did suggest that.
Yours was the other one.
Then we talked about if we raise the mill, for 1 mill, that's the most we can raise it.
Yes.
Without going to a referendum question. Now, if it goes to a referendum, it can be raised up to 5 mills.
a referendum or is it to go to court approval?
No, a referendum, not court approval, they don't have any say in it. A referendum can allow us to raise it up to 5 mils for fire protection. Now, whether it's, we raised it, it's already 2, whether we gave you 1 that you were talking about or even 2 that you need, if we put it on a referendum question, I would put this question to our solicitor then. If it's a referendum question, maybe that does bind the future boards.
It probably would. I mean, at least, well, I have to look back to it. That's set up to up to a millage amount. The referendum says that the board can take it up to 5.
Yes.
As to whether you ultimately do, that might be where that question is. Depending on how you phrase the referendum, that we're going to have 5
So
millage.
they got it, because this board wants to give it to them.
Well, if you take it to 5 in a referendum and the voters vote on it, I think it's stuck in place. You would have to do a referendum to take it away.
All right, so let's not say that the board can't commit to you. That's my suggestion, that whether it's 1 or 2 mills, they ask for 1, you know they need 2, put it on a referendum question.
No, I don't think they said they needed 2.
No, I didn't say that. I said they asked for 1. They says, their words exactly, because I wrote it down, they really could use 2. Because you have more than just, you said a piece of equipment is,
And I think that's what your comprehensive plan, when you get that all together for us, will help show us exactly what your needs are.
Right, I mean, just say for this year, you decide just to give us a 3 mil, no matter how you do it. Instead of guaranteeing 5 years at 2 mills, you give us this year, we do a plan, and maybe the long-range plan is 1 mil every 2 years for the next 3 years, up to 5 mils via referendum. We're not, I'm just throwing out ideas. I don't have the answer. The bottom line is, we do need money, we're working on what we have, we appreciate the discussion, but some hard choices are going to have to be made, and it comes down to money.
but our choice is, if it's 1 mil, where we get it, whether we try to squeeze it out of the general fund or raise taxes 1 mil for it.
This is a question we look at closer to budgeting time. I mean, without even looking at anything, how do you say where it's going to come?
Well, I know that's what we have to study.
We had close to $1 million, if not $1 million surplus at the end of last year.
Exactly. Give us the
But-
right.
and
1 mil is $150,000. It's not that much. Anyway, let me ask you a question. If we decide, what'd you say, Don? If we decide to go to a referendum, are you familiar with when it could be done? How long before? Can it only be in the general, or is it in the crime areas? Or can it be done at either time? Does anybody know the answer?
I think it's the general, but you have to give them so many months' notice to have it, the referendum question.
Second class township code, it's in the code, I'm
Right.
sure.
But I think we definitely are moving in the right direction.
I agree, 100%.
And getting it all out there.
I mean, you could lock us in at 2 and maybe make a one-time gift out of, if you have a surplus, or you know how to give that.
And I think we need to, like I said, we discussed what your needs are further down the road too, and that can all be addressed and where we want to go to in the future.
If we're going to
And-
consider a referendum, we need to know when it has to be done by.
Correct.
Can it be done?
No, she's gonna read it to you in a second.
And
If it can be done in the general, it'll be for the ensuing year. It'll be for next year, not for this current year.
And not forget the other thing we mentioned, if we went township-wide for a grant, that would be additional money not out of the township funds, that would go to either a new building or a new truck for one of the departments or whatever. Those options we're talking about too,
And
let's
I'm
not
on
forget
to-
about
By the
those.
way, I'm on to a grant writer for everybody,
Okay, great,
and I'll let you know as soon as.
thank you. Does that make sense? We talked about those other options, not just taxes. I don't want everybody thinking fire department just wants taxes, we're just trying to find a way to fund ourselves.
And I think we ought to look at all options.
Yeah.
The other thing that I was not aware of was the problem that exists with communications. It's a problem for the police department as well as all of the fire departments. This is something that is affecting our entire community, our entire township. I don't fully understand it, and I don't know if any one of you could just in 100 words or less express it.
I understand that there's a, I guess the correct terminology is a repeater on the Profio tower up there that's not working properly.
Correct.
That might be one of the And that not only affects Cecil Township, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't that affect some of the McDonald area too?
Correct.
And that might help to improve it, but I think we also discussed the fact that maybe we need to have somebody come in and take a look at what would do to improve this, so that we have full coverage everywhere in the township.
Right. We talked about a feasibility study. I'm going to write that, which would be a proposal just much like the roads. A professional come in and say this. We've already stirred the pot up in Washington. They've heard rumors of it, and I don't even know how. But because the Washington County Fire Chiefs have been working on this for a year, and they haven't been able to produce a paper that any of us seen until last month. We had our meeting, and all of a sudden, they're getting nervous up there, which is a good thing. But I don't want any misunderstandings. The feasibility study could be as simple as we come up with $50,000 to enhance the existing system. I mean, we may not have to reinvent the wheel. We will do the study, we'll get all our options from a professional and say, a 911, you haven't been able to provide our coverage gaps, you know, and they'll come in and say, oh, instead of putting the whole system in, maybe you can get away with just upgrade. We'll pay for the upgrades to the existing system. We're very flexible in that. We're not demanding anything, but the bottom line for a firefighter, when I push to talk, the people in that building need to hear me, and that's the bottom line.
Everybody needs to hear. Everybody
It's
needs to
life, it's life safety.
communicate.
And that's where I wanted to go one next step. No matter what, that does not help Sean, because what's going on at Washington County is not going to enhance his service at all, and we were looking at it from all three, fire, police, and EMS, so that's one thing I want to bring up.
Okay, that sounds good.
Did you read that, Sidney?
Yeah, I haven't found it yet.
It says, if this is for the fire apparatus and fire department. If an annual tax is proposed to be set at a level higher than 3 mills, the question shall be submitted to the voters of the township.
That's what I found, but it doesn't specifically say when and how.
It does later on, it tells you.
That's where I'm reading that from.
And like I said, we're not, I know, apples and oranges. I can't say Peters does this, we're not trying to be Peters and vice versa, but some of the things I'm not in the loop on is actually how much money is generated from their fire tax, or did they just take it from the general fund? Different communities. So we have options ourselves to say, maybe we can do it this way, that way, and some of the other options. But, you know, maybe if you could fill us in on that on the next meeting, maybe some other options, or what's the best route for us? Maybe just raise the mills. I don't know.
If we could try to talk to a few other townships and see how they do it, and how they fund their departments.
So if we want to do a referendum, you have to give the voters 60 days notice, and it can be done either in the general or the primary election.
Okay.
It says,
County.
election.
The
Commonwealth
county
for
frames.
submission to the voters at the township at the first municipal or general election occurring not less than 60 days after submission of the question. So we would have to have given them 60 days notice prior to the referendum.
So,
What
I think
So
we're
that's
good.
by September 1st for next year.
So where are we for the next grant or a stipend that we get? Are we at 2 mills, 3 mills? We don't know yet.
We don't
Right
know.
now,
Yeah.
you're at 2 mills right now.
I mean, we're actually going to receive, there's a possibility of getting a 3rd mill this year out of, no,
Not this year.
out of the general fund or anything. Okay.
That would be for next year.
And that's why we discussed the fact that you do your comprehensive plan, and then come October and November when we're doing our budget,
Right.
and we can try to work it in so that next year we can see where we.
We can't work it in through a referendum question if we wait until our budget time.
You can do the referendum in the spring next year.
Or we can do the referendum by September 1st. We can submit it for a question by September 1st to the county.
Right.
So I think.
But remember, with the referendum, you still have to decide where the money is going to come